He's already done it once. A lot of people go with what you know.
She doesn't quite have all the experience that Trump has as far as being president, but I would just say to her, have a little bit more backbone on what you're doing, and to be a little bit more serious about what you're doing and what position you're about to take.
This month, we focus grouped a dozen voters across several swing states who did not vote in the 2020 election but plan to vote this year. Listening to these respondents, it was clear that the election momentum is trending Trump's way. What's behind it? One part is nostalgia for the economy of the Trump years. Here's how they described what life was like in America while he was president.
Prosperous is the word.
Okay.
Economy was good. Jobs were good.
I feel like it was hopeful.
Same.
Life was okay. It wasn't really bad. It wasn't really, really great, but I felt like I was surviving.
All I can really think is sad.
During that time, it was okay.
Robust.
Prosperous.
You stole my word. Prosperous.
I would say it was just normal.
Growing divide.
Unpredictable.
Now compare what you just heard to their description of what life has been like in America during the Biden years.
Struggling.
Confusing.
Difficult.
Anxious.
I also was thinking struggle.
I would say I was hopeful.
I would say declining.
More difficult, harder.
Troubling.
Struggle.
Turning point.
Crashing.
In fact, 10 of the 12 say the US economy is in lousy shape. Now let's pivot and talk about how they feel about Trump versus Harris personally. Here are some words they use to describe what they like about Trump.
Not a career politician.
Business minded.
Successful.
Get stuff done.
Captivating.
I think he is a very, very smart man, especially when it comes to finances and money. And I think that's something that America can always benefit from.
He doesn't back down no matter what anyone throws at him.
I think he's willing to make an unpopular choice.
What they like about Harris is that she's, quote, caring, comforting, means well, is a, quote, nice person, is female, and is educated. But what they don't like about Harris is more illustrative.
I dislike that I don't know much.
I dislike her stance on some of her criminalization and prosecution efforts.
I dislike that she wasn't more present before being nominated as the presidential candidate.
I dislike how she doesn't really focus on one issue. She kind of dodges it.
She just doesn't feel genuine to me. A lot of what she says and does feels fake to me, or not faked, but saying what people want to hear rather than what she genuinely feels.
I feel like she's kind of a puppet. I feel like somebody else is pulling the strings.
All right.
I feel like she's saying what other people are having her say, and I don't know that it's necessarily all her agenda.
I think she uses a lot of language about, like, we're going to fight for this, and a lot of this kind of speaking truth to power type language. But I think she's been the second most powerful person in the entire world for 4 years and hasn't shown much of action.
Their feelings about Trump remain quite critical. In fact, there's a lot that these folks fear about a second Trump presidency.
If he were to get elected, I would be afraid he would spend his whole term, Twitter fighting and fighting in the courts rather than being president.
The Capitol riot, that really left a number on me. So I feel like, unless he can really gain control over that, that's just kind of something that stuck with me. Seeing, there's hardcore on both sides, but that was just like a terrorist attack. It was crazy.
I'm afraid that he may do something that would harm or directly affect Social Security.
The disappearance of middle class altogether. Bigger divide between the richer and the poor.
I'm worried about myself and my daughters losing more rights to our bodies.
I'm worried about him supporting the Project 2025 agenda.
In cahoots with Russia.
Knowing Trump was president once before seems to mitigate many of these concerns. And their support is transactional. If they vote for him, they expect prices to become more affordable. Meanwhile, Harris generates these worries.
I fear that if she gets elected, the country will be even more divided and that she won't be powerful enough to help alleviate it or calm it down. Things will get kind of out of control under her. Maybe because she's a woman, maybe because I don't feel like her authority is really in place enough.
I think she's capable of managing a conflict, a war, should one arise.
I'm afraid that if she tries to do all the things that she wants to do, like building 3 million new homes and plans for this and plans for that, that the deficit is just going to spiral out of control.
I worry that her desire to be liked might take precedence in her decision making.
Going back and forth, saying the right thing to get elected and doing the wrong thing, or at least not what they were elected to do.
I'm afraid that she'll ruin the economy more than it already is based off of her proposed economic ideas.
Among these 12 respondents, 7 independents, 3 Democrats, and 2 Republicans, 8 plan to vote for Trump or lean that way, while the other 4 lean towards Harris or plan to vote for her. Between the time these respondents were recruited for our focus groups and they actually participated, some shifted their positions. Let me introduce you to a couple of them. Let's start with Charmin, who's 36 and from Georgia. Charmin, you're next. So when we conducted a screening interview for this focus group, you told us you were undecided but leaning toward Harris. Since that time, has anything changed at all?
Yes.
What?
I think the media coverage and a lot of things I've seen on social media has made my undecisiveness even stronger. And now I'm leaning towards Trump simply because I see the way my life and my family's situation has declined since the Biden-Harris administration. And there's only like one stance of Harris's that I care about. So I think Trump would be a stronger candidate. So I'm leaning towards Trump now.
Okay, so what is the stance that matters the most to you? Of hers?
Women's reproductive rights.
Okay. So help me understand this a little bit. You're concerned about women's reproductive rights. How in your mind, just again, I'm just asking the questions. How in your mind would you justify voting for Trump, who is responsible for naming the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade?
In my mind, I weigh the pros against the cons, and it's just like one against a few others. She only has one, and he has a few others. So even though one is a greater detriment to women, I feel like we're not going to be able to do much in the way of inflation and a poor economy. So I think that my priorities are more in my home, my household, instead of like what's going on in the general. It may be a selfish decision, but there's other issues that I feel like she's too liberal on, and they would have, I feel like 3 or 4 would affect us more than one.
Okay, so apart from the economy, what else is in Trump's column?
I think I liked Trump's stance on border control. Just the economy is the main thing. I feel like that's the first thing that needs to be straightened out before we can even address all of the other issues. And so that's my main reason.
Okay.
And I also feel like he's just like more powerful. I feel like even if she was elected, I don't know how much she would do. So it's like you can win that seat, but what are you going to do once you get into it? Are you going to be strong enough to make a change?
So you said to me before that you're 70% chance that you're going to vote, 30% that you might not vote.
Mm-hmm.
What's keeping you from saying, I'm definitely voting for Trump?
Again, there is some fear mongering that I've fallen subject to. And so I'm really worried about the Project 2025 agenda. And I feel like if I don't want to make the wrong decision, maybe I should just sit it out, which is why I set out the last election, because I couldn't support either candidate. And so that's why, with him, It's the fly off the handle mentality that scares me, and also the allegations of him being racist.
Okay. So, all right, so let me play devil's advocate with you for a second. So Kamala Harris is listening to our conversation and she's saying to herself, oh my God, how could I lose this woman? She thinks Donald Trump is a racist. She thinks that Donald Trump took away her and women's right to an abortion. Yet she's so afraid of the economy and how it's impacting her family that I can't win her. Tell me what you would say to Harris if she came up to you and she made that argument.
I would say you need to be more straightforward with some of the answers that you're putting out in some of the interview clips I've seen. You need to be more present with what your actual stances are. It's just, I just can't gauge her, and just, speak up more. Just, be more assertive.
Then there's Zaire, who is also 36 and from Michigan. When she was recruited, she told us she was 50-50 and could go either way. When we started talking during the group, she told me she was now 60-40, leaning toward Harris. Then we had this mind-bending exchange, which was edited for clarity.
I'm leaning. Oh, Lord have mercy. It makes me nauseous, honestly. Like talking and thinking about it, it really makes me physically sick, to be honest. Because I'm leaning towards protecting my rights, my body, my daughter's body, women's reproductive rights, especially in the Black community, is something that should be taken very seriously. And it's something that we as a community should be able to govern. And that is what is making me lean more towards Harris. That one simple thing right there.
So hang on a second. So thanks for sharing that. In terms of not being 50-50, where are you? Are you 60-40, 90-10?
I would say I'm more 60-40.
60-40 to Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So explain to me why Trump still has 40 on his side. Based upon what you just said, why isn't it 100-0?
Trump still has 40 because in my community, during the Trump administration, my close community, we have more money in our households than some of them had ever seen in their entire lives. And that spoke volumes. A lot of us, myself included, are still thriving and in positions now because of things that happened during that administration. So the financial aspect is not lost on me.
So if Trump came to you and asked, what do I need to do to change your mind and vote for me? What would you tell him?
Stop trying to govern women's bodies. Real simple. That's none of your business. You don't even have what I have. How can you tell me what to do with it?
Okay. So let me play devil's advocate. He comes back to you and he says, okay, Zaire, Roe v. Wade is overturned. And now every state can decide. Some states are going to have more liberal laws. Some states are going to have more conservative laws. Isn't that good enough for you?
Yeah, that's good enough for me. Let's go. Then that would completely shift my vote. I would completely have different thoughts about the complete. It would totally be different.
Okay.
I would be ready to vote for Trump.
Okay. I'm not done yet. Harris is going to come to you and say, that's great. But if you decide to move from a liberal state to a conservative state and you need an abortion, you're screwed.
That's fine. I'm not moving.
Okay. Friends and family might move. Other people that you might care about might move. It's wrong to have a right that was granted in all 50 states now be decided state by state, where some women are denied something that you might take for granted in a more liberal state.
Completely understandable. I did not make my people move. I didn't make my family move.
Okay. So now hearing me give you both sides of the debate, where are you now? Did I shift you at all?
You definitely shifted me. That was my only hiccup. So I would be Team Trump.
Okay. So hold on a second, just so I understand this. So Trump says it's now state by state, and you're fine with state by state.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a dozen states where women cannot get an abortion in the United States where they could before, you're fine with that?
I don't live in those states.
If these respondents were required to bet $50 on the outcome of the election, 8 would put it on Trump, 4 would put it on Harris. We'll see what happens on November 5th. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining us all year on this Deciders project.